Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on my channel today. Well, what the f is that? Jesus Christ. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today I've got a great video for you, and it's a collab with a newer YouTuber that I met recently and have connected with. Her name is Volpe. We're both going to be reviewing for you Maleficent. Directed by Robert Stromberg, this movie came out in 2014, and it got a lot more backlash than I thought it would, especially because it was revolved around a Disney classic, Sleeping Beauty, just told from a different angle. So I was genuinely surprised when I saw that people weren't as thrilled about it as I thought they would be. But before we get into my thoughts, let's get over to Sydney, see what she thought about this movie.
Hey everyone, I'm Sydney. You can find me on YouTube at Sydney Volpe or on Letterboxd at STK5. I'm so glad that I met Rob recently and to be here doing this collab with him on Maleficent. I did not see this movie when it came out back in 2014. I have no idea why, because I was in the perfect demographic for it, but it was really interesting to watch it now, especially since we're looking back at kind of the beginning of Disney doing a lot of live action remakes and the beginning of them telling stories from the villain's perspective, which we just saw with Cruella this year. And I know there are a lot of varying feelings about Disney doing that, whether it's just as a cash grab or if it's kind of undermining the mythos of these characters who are supposed to be the most evil people of all time. I'm not someone who personally minds that, but here we're seeing the quote-unquote true story behind Sleeping Beauty and what actually happened with Maleficent, who's played by an electric Angelina Jolie, and how her actions were actually motivated by a really terrible betrayal that happened to her. Her actions being her casting this spell upon Aurora, who's played by Elle Fanning, that upon her 16th birthday, she'll prick her finger on a spindle or whatever the sewing wheels are called, and she'll fall into this deep sleep and won't wake up from it until she receives her true love's kiss. I really enjoyed the direction that they took this in, and I'll get into that later, but the film starts off with this flashback into Maleficent's childhood. She's this young fairy living in the magical moors, this forest full of tree creatures and fairies, and that part is really sweet, but then everything takes a turn for the worse, and we see this intense conflict between man and the creatures of the moors, and we also just see Maleficent go through this transformation after this betrayal happens of becoming this dark and revenge-bent version of herself that's the evil protector of this forest. And I honestly had a lot of fun with this. A lot of the reason being because of Angelina Jolie and her cheekbones. She totally carries this experience. She does a really great job at showing kind of that hardened and vengeful side of Maleficent, but also this more graceful and feminine side of her as well. But I also enjoyed it because it's supposed to be a family-friendly film that's accessible to younger audiences, so my biggest expectation was really just to be entertained, and I absolutely was. But other than that, I think this is just a fine representation of this story. I think most of the issues that I have with it stem from its PG rating and also some logical issues. There's a couple very nonsensical decisions that they make with Aurora once the spell is cast. You're not quite sure what Maleficent's powers are. And again, just a few logical things that are kind of glossed over. I also think that it flops around a bit in terms of Maleficent's morality, kind of between how she's supposed to be this evil figure and how they're going to redeem her from that. And again, some things are kind of glossed over there. I think that they were able to execute Cruella much better, and that it was kind of a better overall film because it had the freedom of that PG-13 rating to go into its deeper and darker themes and have its characters be a little bit more genuinely sinister. But it looks pretty great. Some of the CGI definitely did not age well, but outside of the moors where you're seeing most of the fake creatures and wildlife, it's really beautiful. A lot of shots actually reminded me of 300 in a way. One effect I did love is the kind of green flame-like magic that comes up around Maleficent. It made me very nostalgic for the original Sleeping Beauty. I also played the video game a lot as a child. I also loved the costume design. I think they really nailed this dark fantasy tone. All of the performances were okay, if not great. But I really wanted to talk about the ending. And it's something I really cannot spoil at all, but they took this in a direction that just subverts a very typical trope in stories like this, and I really, really loved it. And it was honestly kind of a gutsy decision for 2014. It's a big thing throughout history that women have been vilified, or their side of the story has been wiped or altered compared to what actually happened or what was actually written. Medusa is a really good example of that. But I really liked what they did here. I thought it brought together a lot of really important feminine themes, and it didn't feel forced. I do think the ending felt a bit rushed, and again, that PG rating prevented some parts from feeling fully developed, but it was still effective, and I think a really great film for young kids to have been watching at that time. I'd give Maleficent 2.5 out of 5 stars. So those are my quick thoughts on Maleficent. I'd honestly consider watching the sequel to this. I thought it was very cute, and anything that Angelina Jolie is in, I'm already sold on. But make sure to subscribe to The Big Rob Theory and my channel as well. Thanks again to Rob for having me on, and hopefully I'll be back soon for another collab. Bye guys.
Great thoughts from a great YouTuber. Thank you very much for your thoughts, Sydney, and thank you again for joining me in this video. Now, let's get down to it. Before I say anything about this movie, Angelina Jolie killed this role. Oh my goodness, I really was surprised that one, I didn't see this movie beforehand. Two, that she gave such a phenomenal performance. I really just don't understand how people can hate on this movie. I get that the premise, behind Sleeping Beauty was different in this movie, but I like the different angle. In this movie, it focuses more on Maleficent, who in Sleeping Beauty was the villain. In this movie, you kind of get the sense that Maleficent isn't a villain at all, because in essence, she isn't in this movie. They kind of make her into one when certain things happen and she falls in love with this guy named Stefan when she was younger. When they both got older, Stefan kind of, did some dirty things and screwed her over and cut off her wings just so he could be king. Really messed up. And looking at the angle from Maleficent's point of view, obviously she felt hurt. In the movie, it was crazy. Oh my God. It was just crazy to see Angelina's performance, especially during the moment where her wings got cut. You just see the sorrow on her face, the crying, the yelping she does. It is a great performance. The director really hit the nail on the head with the acting in this movie. The main premise of this movie is the fact that Aurora, Stefan's daughter, kind of gets screwed big time because Maleficent puts a special kind of curse on her that on her 16th birthday she will prick a needle and she will fall into a deep sleep that nothing can wake her except true love's kiss. Elle Fanning plays the role of Aurora when she's 16 years old. And Charlton Copley plays Stefan. Now, I had no idea about this, but one of my favorite actors, Brenton Thwaites, is Prince Philip, and he's in this movie. So when I saw him show up, I'm like, that's Robin. It's awesome. If you haven't seen Titans, go right now. Stop what you're doing. Watch it. But no, I love the tone of this movie. The cinematography was beautiful. Whenever you see Maleficent flying around, obviously pre-wing cuttage, she is just in such splendor when she's flying, when she's doing her thing. I could see how in this movie people would be frightened of her because one, people are scared of things that they don't understand, and two, it's a female with horns and wings that can fly and do magic. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, at first I might have been a little wary, but at the same time I'd be like, that's dope. Again, I love the concept and the twists and turns of this movie. By the time we get to the final climax of the movie, Aurora experiences true love's kiss. It doesn't come in the way that you think, in the original Sleeping Beauty, Prince Philip is the one who gives Aurora her kiss to wake her up. I can understand how people would be upset with this movie in comparison to the original because of how certain things went in the original movie, and it is completely different in this movie. Yeah, overall, this movie is just a great ride, man, a great ride. I don't have many complaints with this movie, and I really try to balance out my reviews with positives and negatives. I'll say maybe one of the negatives is the fact that, yes, it is completely different than the original, especially in the way how Aurora gets her curse and what happens to lift the curse. You can see, as I said, why people were upset about that. But I wasn't necessarily upset. I was like, oh, okay, that's different. But I was here for it because different isn't always bad, you know. There's nothing wrong with changing things around and making things a little bit different or telling something from a different point of view. That's what I think I liked the most about this, is the fact that we got the point of view of Maleficent. Not Aurora, not the fairies, not necessarily Prince Philip, you know, not the, okay, Maleficent is evil. You know, it's more along the lines of she was attacked, she was hunted, she was tricked, she was lied to, she was led on. Anyone would want to tear down cities, or, you know, I'm just metaphorically speaking. Anyone would really just want to lash out after being broken like that and having something so sacred to you torn apart from you. So thank you guys for joining me in this video. I had a great time. Thank you, Sydney, for joining me in this collab. I appreciate it. You will see her in more collabs in the future, and I really appreciate her thoughts. Go over to her channel. The link to her channel will be in the description box down below. If you aren't subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell next to it so that you can get a notification anytime there's a new video. All right, guys, it's been real. Until the next one.